I now call the open council meeting of Wednesday, September 30th, 2020 to order. I now call the open council meeting of Wednesday, September 30th, 2020 to order and request that everyone turn their cell phones off for the duration of the meeting. And I'll ask the acting clerk to take a council roll call and request all members to respond verbally at this time and when voting on any matters this afternoon.
Okay, Councillor Bush.
Present.
Councillor Carlucci.
Present.
Councillor Martin McKinnon.
Present.
Councillor Shane McKinnon.
Present.
Councillor McKay.
Present.
Councillor Price. Not with us. And Mayor Wilson.
Present. I'd like to call for declaration of pecuniary interest and the general nature thereof under the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act with respect to the agenda for this meeting. I'd like to call for declarations of pecuniary interest and the general nature thereof under the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act for meetings at which a member was not in attendance and which had not been previously declared. We have no delegations this afternoon. We have no presentations, and we have one public notice which I'll ask the acting clerk to review.
Okay, the public notice is a notice of a complete application and public meeting for a zoning bylaw amendment, which is in the agenda package for this meeting. Notice advises an application for an amendment to the city's zoning bylaw has been received and deemed complete. A public meeting will be held Tuesday, October the 13th at 5 p.m. using Microsoft Teams to allow the public an opportunity to make representations in respect to the proposed zoning bylaw amendment under Section 34 of the Planning Act. The land affected by the proposed amendment is at 163 Mary Avenue, and the purpose and effect of the proposed amendment is to rezone the subject property to permit a duplex within the existing single detached dwelling. Subject property is located in the residential Type 1 zone, where a duplex is not permitted. The subject property is proposed to be rezoned to a site-specific residential Type 1 Exception 1 zone, which would include a duplex as a permitted use. Anyone wanting to view copies of the proposed amendment material and other information relating to the proposed zoning bylaw amendment is asked to visit the city's Building and Planning Office at City Hall during regular office hours. Questions regarding the application are to be directed to Ms. Pam Skillen, the city's chief building official. Written comments on the proposed amendments can be provided to myself prior to the meeting, and verbal comments can be provided to Ms. Skillen at least 24 hours prior to the meeting. Verbal comments will be transcribed and read at the public meeting. Anyone who wishes to participate in the public meeting is asked to contact myself. The entire public notice is available on the agenda for this meeting, which can be seen on the city's website.
Thank you, Allison. We are now at Consent Agenda Part 1, General, and I'd like to ask the acting clerk to conduct this section of the agenda as well.
Okay, I'll review the items under Consent Agenda Part 1, General, and when I'm done, I'll ask if there are any items that any member of council would like to speak to or sever for a separate vote. Under Adopt and Receive Minutes, there are 4 sets of minutes for adoption. They're the minutes of the August 10th Committee of the Whole meeting, the August 24th Council meeting, the August 31st Special Council meeting, and the September 2nd Policy and Bylaw Review Committee meeting. Under motions arising from previous meetings, we have a motion to authorize staff to proceed with the preparation of a concessionaire agreement extension for the Dryden Memorial Arena and Pronger Rink, starting September 30th, 2020 and ending April 30th, 2021. We also have a motion to direct staff to apply for a grant opportunity from the Federation of Canadian Municipalities Municipal Asset Management Program for a City of Dryden Corporate Facilities Needs Assessment. And finally, we have a motion to appoint Jeremy Dutton and Julie McMahon to the city's Economic Diversification Advisory Committee for the remainder of this term of council. Are there any of those items that council would like to speak to or sever for a separate vote? Seeing none.
All right, so we need someone to move and someone to second.
Councillor Councillor Carlucci and Councillor Martin. Thank you. Moved by Councillor Carlucci, seconded by Councillor Martin McKinnon, that council hereby consider the following items of consent agenda part 1, general, under date of September 30, 2020, as read and adopted, 6A, B, C, D, 7A, B, C.
All in favor? Any opposed? Carried. Thank you. We are now at consent agenda part 2, bylaws, and the acting clerk will also conduct this section of the agenda.
Okay, thank you. Again, I'll review the items that are on the consent part 2 agenda, and when I'm done, I'll ask if there are anyone would like to speak to and or sever for a separate vote. Just so you know that on your agenda, bylaw 4772-2020 is going to be pulled from the consent agenda for today's meeting, and will be brought forward at a later date. So we have bylaw 4770-2020, a bylaw to amend the city's policy and procedure manual by deleting and replacing the incident reporting policy and procedure and the vehicle operation and vehicle incident investigations policy and procedure. Bylaw 4771-2020 is a bylaw to authorize the participation of the Dryden Fire Service in the Kenora District Mutual Aid Plan. Bylaw 4773-2020 rescinds bylaws 2732-2000 and 4041-2013, amends the city's municipal code by deleting Chapter 81 firearms, and adopts a new firearms bylaw. And bylaw 4774-2020 is a bylaw to amend the city's policy and procedure manual by adding a municipal asset naming policy. And are there any of those that council would like to speak to or sever for a separate vote?
All right, so we need someone to move and second that motion.
Councillor Price and Councillor Bush, thank you. Moved by Councillor Price, seconded by Councillor Bush, that council consider section 10, I guess it is now, of the consent agenda part 2 bylaws under date of September 30th, 2020, which includes the following bylaws as read a first, second, and third time. Bylaw 4770-2020, bylaw 4771-2020, bylaw 4773-2020, and bylaw 4774-2020.
All in favor?
Okay, thank you.
Carried. Thank you. Okay, we're now back to the regular agenda, which is out of consent. Each item on the regular agenda will be presented individually to council. First up, staff report, key performance indicators, CAO.
Thank you, Your Worship. So I had put together the staff report and actually a brief presentation for council, which the plan was to deliver this to council as part of the agenda Monday night, and of course our technology let us down, so we couldn't have that meeting. But we, regardless, we went forward with the launch of our municipal dashboard. So I'm going to, hazard a guess that some of this information is now old and the thunder is gone from my presentation. But I'll present it anyhow. So I think at this point our attendees online or remote attendees can see the presentation. We can see it here in council chambers. So if we want to flip to the next slide, Patty, that'd be great. So of course council knows that we've launched our municipal dashboard and our strategic plan dashboard. This is a substantial amount of work that staff undertook. It's really, the municipal dashboard is really meant to help us measure our success across our various municipal services. And our strategy plan dashboard is intended to show our progress against our 5-year strategy plan goals and those associated initiatives to that plan. So all in all, we're tracking over 18 service areas. We're showing progress against our 6 strategic goals and priorities, and we have over 100 performance indicators wrapped up within these dashboards. So again, lots of information for council, for staff, and for our public. Some folks may ask why we create the dashboards, and really the dashboards are setting a new standard in our organization. They're an extremely important part of our work to build that trust with our taxpayers and really increase accountability and transparency of the organization. They and as I mentioned, they really enhance public communication. So at this point, any of our public can log into our website and at their fingertips have all of these key performance indicator measurements. And again, Council has been requesting this type of reporting for some time now. Performance measurement benefits, lots of benefits to measuring performance. These dashboards are going to help our decision making. Better data means better decisions by staff and council. They're going to help us be more efficient and allow for better benchmarking. So at this point, we've really tried to tailor the key performance indicators or the measurements after the municipal benchmarking network group of municipalities. And if anybody wants to review that data, it's also online, and you can go in and do almost a direct comparison between some of those performance measurements and the City of Dryden's performance measurements. So it really does help benchmarking. And hopefully down the road, some smaller municipalities will adopt this type of technology and this type of measurement, which then will make it that much more easier to do benchmarking with smaller municipalities. With the baseline data in place and over time, we'll be able to see trends in that data and respond accordingly. Right now, there's some areas that are more difficult to see those trends, so this will help. And of course, the dashboards promote our culture of continuous improvement. We're always striving to do better, and in doing that, we're changing the way we do things. And that's an ongoing process, and we're trying hard to ingrain it into our culture. Of course, the community launch is old news. We did that Monday. There's been media releases, website postings, email notifications going out to some of our key stakeholders in the community. And of course, anybody on social media probably saw our campaign start, and that'll last at least for a few weeks, maybe a little longer. And we actually created a couple of short launch videos, which I'll get Patty to play at this point. You might have to, yeah, just click on the play, Patty. So just a couple other comments, again, outlined in my staff report. Most of the measurements or the key performance indicators are updated on an annual basis. So as we move out of the current year and into 2021, we'll be looking to update those indicators with 2020 data. And we'll be also, as we move forward, we'll be looking at adding additional measurements to the dashboards as we gather data and deem it necessary. So, any questions from council? I'd be happy to answer.
Any councillor questions?
Unshare the desktop, Patty, in Teams. There you go.
Councillor Carlucci?
Hey, Roger, very nice, very well done. I was on there on the 28th looking at it, and yeah, I can't wait to spend a whole day sort of going through it. It's a great job from your staff and yourself, and just want to comment on how good it was. So thank you for doing that.
Great, thank you. Councillor McKinnon, Shane?
Yes, I think it's a great tool for the community. Roger, thank you very much. Has there been a public reaction to it yet?
Through your worship, yeah, there has been so far positive. I've heard from some some of our key community stakeholders, and they were very impressed with the dashboard. Yeah, generally speaking, very, very good response. It may take a little while to catch on. So, I look forward to, to feedback and not just the positive feedback, but as well, if there's ideas for improvement, other data that we may want to add, we're definitely open to that as well. It's simple to add the measurement. It's not always so simple to gather the supporting data. Some of the data we had, readily available. Other data staff had to work at to gather. So this really was a across the organization effort. Every department contributed, and like I say, some of the data was there readily available, while other data not so readily available. We had to work at building it.
Thank you.
Councillor McCabe?
Yes, Roger. It's I've been involved in a business for the last 16 years that makes very good use of the dashboard, and it can be a real morale booster too for staff, the city staff, because at any time you can as more of the data comes in, you compare your goals to how you're actually performing and to your peer group. That once you start, as you said, get other municipalities that are involved with dashboards, it's very helpful in that. So yeah, it's a positive move. Thanks.
All right.
Just a comment
Roger?
on that, Your Worship. I appreciate that, Councillor McKay, and it does help us celebrate our successes. Absolutely, absolutely. It as Councillor Carlucci said, he's going to have to spend a day going through it. I think it's probably when you do, it's going to generate questions, because it is, the portal represents small snippets of information out of each service area, and it doesn't always tell the whole story. So there could be some background data that helps put the measurement in context. So don't be afraid to ask those questions. Even going through it myself, it generated questions, and that's really the point of it. Looking at those trends, looking at what the data is doing, it's meant to generate questions. So feel free to ask questions anytime.
Councillor Bush?
Yes, through the chair, Roger, I almost don't know where to begin with my comments, because as my previous colleagues have said, you can tell that everybody is very highly interested and impressed with what you and your staff have been able to do in terms of putting these dashboards together, and I totally agree with all of the previous comments that were made. But I think back to 2014 and 15 and where the city was then, and the subject of benchmarking and all of those sorts of things was brought up. There was very little apparent interest in doing any of this stuff, and the city was in a highly reactive mode, just running day to day, if not minute to minute. And now it's pretty clear that with the strategic plan and the measurements that you've put in place, we're going to be able to measure our progress, but do a lot more forward thinking and challenge ourselves when we do get questions, and be able to have the data to do that in a meaningful, considered way. So to me, this is just a huge, huge step forward for not only running the city, but as you pointed out, allowing the citizens of the city to really see what's going on and what we're doing, and to be able to share in the successes of the city by being able to look at these things in a pretty simple, practical way. So I think what you and your staff have done is excellent. And again, we've talked about this many times, but nobody on council, and I say nobody with confidence because I've heard from everybody say it a number of times, none of us are interested in putting a strategic plan in place that sits on a shelf. And what you and your team have done is created a strategic plan that's a living, breathing document that basically is what we're going to be living by every week, every month, every year. So just kudos to all involved. And I think down the road, this is going to become even more valuable to the city and council in terms of planning our future. So just a big thank you to you and your staff for everything that you've done. Much appreciated.
Again, just I definitely appreciate those comments. All the comments from all the councillors. Big effort from the staff here. Every department contributed, so big thank you to them.
I spent some time this morning going through the documents, the portals, and part of what Norm says there is true. I immediately went back to some of the situations I've been in over the tenure of 11 years. I've been a counselor now, where people have asked me questions and I've had to spend literally months getting information for them. And that only causes frustration to the public. And the thing that jumped off the page for me today was the transparency of it all. And my ability as a counselor now to say, well, here's a portal you can go and look at, and it'll tell you exactly what you just asked me. If you have any questions from there, let's have it. So I think this is a wonderful tool. We've needed it for so long. And I'd like to thank the staff for putting the time and effort into developing a fine piece of machinery for us to use.
I'm just wondering what part of what Councillor Bush said wasn't true. Oh, that's okay. Couldn't resist.
There's a transparency.
Well, I was going to save mine for the comments, mayor comments, but I just want to say also just very impressed with those dashboards and encourage all citizens to check it out on our website. Well done, staff. And we'll hopefully up the communication standards, the benchmarking standards as well with other community stakeholders. So there'll be a lot of good spin-off from this. Okay, so we have one notice of motion this afternoon, which I'll ask the acting clerk to review.
Okay, we have a notice of motion filed by Mayor Wilson. Will be included on the agenda of the regular meeting of council, which will happen on October the 26th. The subject of this motion is request an updated OPP costing proposal. The notice of motion reads as follows: that council direct the City of Dryden CAO to send a letter to Ontario Solicitor General, the Honourable Sylvia Jones, to request pricing for OPP services for the City of Dryden, and further that copies of the letter be sent to the Dryden Police Services Board, Dryden Police Chief Doug Paulson, and the Dryden Police Association. And as I mentioned, that'll be coming forward on the 26th of October.
Thank you. We have no motions this evening. We're on to reports of municipal officers. CAO.
Thank you, Worship. I do have a few comments. So I'm just going to run through these fairly quickly, but I was able to attend our first working circle meeting back at the beginning of September. Great meeting. We seem to have hit the ground running. I think some of the councillors involved had commented on that during our committee of the whole meeting. Our next meeting is scheduled for next week, so looking forward to that. We are well into our capital and operating budget planning cycle at this point. Our treasurer may have additional comments there. I'll leave it at that. Of course, we've launched our performance measurement and reporting dashboards. Big milestone there for us. We've reopened the fitness center and pool. Both those reopenings have gone very well, so I want to thank our entire community services team down at the rec center for that. A lot of planning, a lot of thought went into those reopening plans to make sure both our staff and visiting public were safe at those facilities. Our Van Horn Avenue project is at this point pretty much completed. Again, our Public Works manager may have some additional comments there, but again, a big thanks out to the Public Works staff and our contractors involved in that project. Very well executed project. We were able, staff and a couple of councillors were able to attend an impact meeting where we discussed commercial and multi-residential assessments during the month of September. It was informative. We've also been able to conduct a nuclear waste management organization meeting to discuss general adaptive phased management project topics. That was done in conjunction with our master steering committee team, and again talked generally about the project, talked about community engagement here in Dryden, and also discussed the funding for neighboring communities from the NWMO. And then my final comment is in regards to the service delivery review. The consulting team has actually identified over 70 opportunities that were gathered from the interviews with staff and council, as well as being generated from the public survey that was conducted. Their focus right now is finishing a more comprehensive analysis of some of those targeted priority opportunities, as well as finishing up the municipal comparator work that they had started. So we're looking forward to hopefully a final report next month, October. For sure, it will be done into November. We're probably about a couple of weeks behind on the project right now. They're going to consultants working to kind of catch up a little bit, but nothing too earth-shattering there. But I'm looking forward to seeing the final product. Some of the snapshots I've had of the municipal comparator data is very interesting. I think council will find it interesting as well.
Thank you. Stephen, Treasurer.
Good afternoon, everyone. A few things to report on. Like Roger said, I think Councillor Shane McKinnon had a question.
Oh, Councillor Shane.
Sorry, Your Worship, I just have a question for Mr. Nesbitt on his report.
Yes, go ahead.
Okay?
Yep.
Thank you. Just in regards to the service review, what is the routine? How does that roll out to council, and does it go beyond council to the public?
Through your worship, absolutely. The final report will be delivered to council and then made public. There are some situations where service delivery reviews have a closed portion of the report. I'm actually not expecting that at this moment, Councillor McKinnon, but not to say that there may not be a closed portion to the report, but right now I'm not really anticipating that. So if that answers your question. So
that the closed portion would include things that were sensitive or personal and shouldn't be shared with the public. Is that correct?
Correct. It would have potential personnel impacts, things of that nature.
Very good. Thank you. Sorry.
All right. Thank you, Stephen.
Yeah, so like I was saying, the 2021 budget planning is well underway. I'm just wrapping up the proposed 2021 fees and charges schedules. I'll be presenting a staff report and those proposed schedules to council at October's COW meeting. I am now pulling together all of the capital requests into a document that senior management can review and do a preliminary prioritization on. And then a draft capital plan will be coming to council as well in the upcoming weeks. And then also management is currently working on their draft operating budgets as we speak. And so those management will be providing that information to me by October 9th. As well, with COVID, it's reasonable to say that we won't be having any form of public gatherings for budget feedback or input. However, the city's established an email. It's budgetinput@dryden.ca, that all members of the public are open and requested to provide their feedback and input into any budgetary matters that they see fit. Similar to last year, any of the information that I receive, I will be sharing that information with council at the next council meeting. As well on my to-do list is we're working on the Q3 financial report, and that will be coming to council in October's council meeting. And last week I attended a Municipal Finance Officers Association virtual annual conference this year. A little bit different format than previous years, but I think overall it went fairly well. And there's two items in there that I wanted to bring to council's attention, or to the public's attention, is that the provincial government is, I guess, updating the program design for OSIF. So if council recalls, in 2020 we received $440,000 under the OSIF formula based funding program. They historically had a OSIF application-based funding component that ended and kind of rolled into the funding for the ISIP program. So they're going to be refocusing that program, and what that means come 2021 is anybody's guess. That's as much as the information that the ministry provided during the conference last week. So there's a big question mark and some uncertainty about, what we're going to get, if anything, in 2021 under that OSIP program. The other item is, council may recall, recently the federal government came up with a new stream under the ISIP program related to COVID-19. The provincial ministry basically said that they don't really have an update as far as timelines. The federal government said that all spending under that stream needed to be completed by September 30th, 2021, and we don't have any information about the intake of that program or funding approvals or anything like that. Basically, I was told that it's still in the design, and the provincial government is determining if and when they even want to, I guess, sign off on that agreement, because they want to ensure that that program aligns with provincial priorities. So just wanted, it's more of a, not necessarily a good news report, because I'm not really sure if the province is going to sign off on that stream. Anyway, that's it for me.
So Stephen, just a question. It seems like what probably is going to happen over the next year or 2 years is there's going to be a lot of money that's the same money that's rebranded for something else, so it'll make it difficult for municipal governments to budget over the next year or two. Is that kind of your sense?
Yeah, that is my take, because if council recalls also, we did receive over $400,000 under the Safe Restart funding program that was implemented provincially. I do have to provide some reporting on that by the end of October, and as well a one in March related to the transit funding component under that stream. And that is only related, that funding we received is only related to the impacts the pandemic had on municipalities in 2020. It does not address any lingering issues that carry into the next fiscal year. So who knows what's going to happen in 2021, not only from our municipal operations and the impacts we'll have related to the pandemic, and if it continues into next year, but also what that means for funding programs. So a lot of uncertainty out there right now.
Yes. All right, thank you. City Clerk?
Sorry,
Oh.
question.
Councillor Bush?
Yes, through your worship. Stephen, just given the communication challenges that we have these days with no newspaper, et cetera, with respect to public input for the budget, you mentioned a link, email link that people could send their comments and questions into. I'm just wondering if we've thought about or have plans to maybe contact CKDR and just make that available so that they can highlight that and rather than just hope they pick it up. Or have we thought about how we can enhance our communication to the public in that regard?
Yeah, I'm really glad you said that, Councillor Bush, because I was remiss in not mentioning it, that it's not just the email. We will be pushing out information on the city's website and social media avenues related to the 2021 budget, as well as using any other media means to our disposal.
Yeah, I'm just a little sensitive to that because we can't have public meetings and all that sort of thing. So thank you.
Sure. Roger?
Just a couple of comments. Staff can take that back and maybe contact CKDR to get some airtime for that. But just the other comment I wanted to make, the service delivery review did have a public engagement piece to it. We went out with a public survey, and there's some excellent comments wrapped up in that survey that could be used as budget feedback as well. So staff management group has that survey, and the treasurer could certainly use that as well as input.
Great, thank you.
Allison?
Okay, past week was a very busy one in the administration department. It included EOC training and tabletop exercise, which took place on September 21st and 22nd. On September 22nd, the cemetery and licensing coordinator participated in the AMCTO Virtual Zone 9 Fall Conference. And on the 25th, I took part in the AMCTO Municipal Clerks Forum, which was also held virtually. As well as has been mentioned, work continues on the 2021 operating budgets. As well, we are continuing to work on policy review.
All right, thank you. Blake, Public Works?
Thank you, Your Worship. I'll start off by saying, yep, Van Horn is completed. It looks like we're within budget, so we're potentially a little under. We opened the road up on Friday, September 18th. Myself, McKinga Contracting, KGS, and a few others in my staff did a deficiency inspection this morning, and we found a few small things, but nothing major. So you might see them out there for the next couple of days anyways, and then we'll see what happens in the spring to see if there was any other issues here. The Duke Street overpass, we started work there September 17th. If you drive by there, you'll see our curbs are done basically. We have a few catch basins they're working on. Half the sidewalk is completed. We are going to be closing the overpass on Saturday. That is not announced yet on October 3rd, but it will be later today. Here, I just found out. We're closing it, and we'll be milling the asphalt on the bridge, and then probably paving later in the week. So hopefully everything may be completed by the end of next week. Under waste management, we have Household Hazardous Waste Day, September 19th, and that was very well attended and quite the success. We had 555 cars. Rotary helped us out. They had 29 volunteers, which is, I think, a record that we counted basically with helping with the event. And as well as we hauled away a transport and another half a load of hazardous waste. Miller was able to haul the extra half a load due to the fact they were actually running a hazardous waste day in Sioux Lookout, and we filled up the other half of their truck as well here. So we did very well. I think COVID helped. People cleaned up a little bit more at their house and brought a lot of materials in. I'd just like to thank Rotary as well as my staff, and especially Daryl Pollard, who actually took that job on and was very successful at it. Just a reminder, the Citizens Compost Bag Pickup is October 13th and 19th. Operations Division is continuing on with ditching and culverts in the rural area. Still working on numerous catch basin repairs. Still a little bit of mowing in the rural areas. We're basically finished within the city limits, though, in parks. And sweeping. I just wanted to thank everyone for looking at purchasing that new sweeper we got, because it does a tremendous job. Everybody's happy with it who works at the city. It's always running when we need it, and productivity is amazing. The amount of streets we can get done compared to we could get done with the last one. And you might have noticed as well that there's been some refurbished artist benches were put out throughout the city. I think there's a couple of more left to go out, but they're actually looking really good. They've been repainted and refinished and everything, so they actually do stand out, I think, a lot more than they used to as well. Parks, the season is basically winding down. Unfortunately, with COVID, the parks weren't as busy as they usually are, but it did give us a little bit of an opportunity to do a little bit more work in a few parks, like Kinsman Park, where we replaced a few benches, picnic tables with a different type, able to grow some extra grass there as well here, so it's looking quite a bit better. And we also fixed up and replaced some playground equipment in some various locations. Last weekend, Domter held an event in partnership with us, cleaning up some parks and trails as well here on Saturday. We partnered up, and our employees actually assist. We supply some tools, but we're also there to, if we come across any sharps and needles in some of the parks, our staff do assist and actually pick that up, as they're all trained in that as well. Waterworks, we're currently updating our SCADA systems at both the water treatment plant and sewage treatment plant. Our water treatment plant was completed this week. Just a note, we have had a large number of water main breaks this year. I think Dean told me close to 15 this year, so we do have a high number. And actually, we just finished repairing a water main break that occurred under Swanson Creek. I don't know, you may have seen McKinga and another contractor were there actually directional drilling a new section of pipe under the creek there. But everything's connected up now. That job went fairly well. Also, we're out repairing a hydrant on Pioneer Street, where a large transport actually took out a hydrant there and actually damaged the water main as well when they hit it. So they've been fairly busy over the last few weeks as well. That's my report for today.
Thanks, Blake. I was just gonna thank you for making the street sweeping complaints in Dryden go way down. Those complaints sometimes go to the mayor, so thanks for purchasing that. And second, I may have my dates wrong, but I thought that the announcement was that the overpass would be closed till the 15th of October. Was that right or no? I'm just thinking they're a week ahead if they can get it done by next week.
There was potential for the one lane to be closed till I think I had the 15th down some. But we're actually moving quicker on that job than we thought as well. And we might even have a slight delay when we open it to full traffic and then come back and pave it, which should take only like a day and a half of complete closure. But yeah, we look like we're a little bit ahead anyways here on that job as well.
Great. Well, you've been busy this summer, and thank you for your efforts. Manager of Community Services, Steve Belanger.
Good evening. Pleased to report that gym and pool numbers continue to trend up, creeping up. That we're basically on 5 weeks in a row now where everything is moving up, and the reviews remain very positive all the way through, and people are feeling safe there. So that's wonderful. Some of our swims, particular our aqua fitness, are booked, and there's often waiting lists to participate in those classes. So that's another positive indicator. Swim lessons, a little bit underwhelming, but when we look at registration programs like that, if we are going to have low numbers, I'm happy that they're there. We can adjust and only offer such program on demand. During the last council meeting, I brought forward a recommendation for ice installation. Pleased to report that we've started that process, or fired up the plant yesterday, and began making ice today. So we will have ice for the Thanksgiving weekend, commencing on the Saturday and on the Sunday, and we'll be into our full programming the week after, or starting on the Tuesday. We've been getting quite a few calls about arena walking. We're going to commence that as well once we have the ice in place and everything's going, although it will not be the regular arena walking, or regular timed. It'll basically be by appointment, and when there's no one on the ice, meaning old timers hockey or ice dogs, we'll really be looking at opportunities where they have the facility to themselves. So pleased to see that that's back, and we know there's a want there. Couple of capital projects, flooring project complete, and if anyone's seen a crane around the building yesterday, we were putting up our new HVAC unit that'll serve the hall above the pool and the lobby. That was a planned 2021 or 2020 capital project, so everything went very well on the install, and again on our fire up today, so really pleased to see that one done. And that basically leaves one capital project remaining in cardio equipment replacement, and we have those quotes. We're just taking our time on that order to ensure nothing else fails on us prior to us making that order. Special thanks to our user groups, the minor hockey, figure skating, Dryden girls hockey, for their patience, understanding, and input as we develop a schedule and welcome everyone back into the arena. They're faced, I can totally appreciate the challenges that they're going through, and trying to help out their own members. Unfortunately, numbers are down across the board through all the organizations. That said, that was a little bit expected, but all associations are expected to run, and we are going to be quite full all the way through. It's our day use that's going to hurt. But again, special thanks to all those volunteers who make this happen. It's never an easy job, and this year it certainly got a whole lot harder. Regarding my lift, 2 new hires. They started training today. We basically we had lost one individual for a period of time who needed to leave. We've got a couple of sets of new drivers who fit our crew perfectly. Same type of characters. I think our riders are going to appreciate, and that certainly takes a little bit of pressure off our existing drivers. Pleased to report that we had a phenomenal year at Aaron Park, despite COVID and despite the the slow start to it. Certainly challenging to get going, but in terms of revenues and bookings, couldn't be more happy. We basically met our target, and today I finally got our final announcement on how much we were successful on in terms of student funding, and we ended up with nearly $13,000 in student funding, which is absolutely huge. So thank you to MECP for helping out, and we of course had a successful application ourselves, so that's great. Soccer facility will now, commencing this week or next week, we'll be pouring the slab underneath the canopy, and that was all part of that accessible facility, where those individuals who require mobility devices or a wheelchair would actually have a platform where they could watch. So underneath the canopy at the new soccer building, that concrete pad will be poured in the coming days as we continue to develop that facility. Special thanks to our Heritage and Museum Coordinator, a successful fund to the COVID relief for museums, resulted in another $12,000 to us to help offset some of the losses that we had over there. So again, a great thing. And finally, we're basically in the middle of a New Horizons Seniors program. Finally, we've been waiting for this one for a while and basically developed a mock application in anticipation of it, and we now understand that we're days away from a release of that fund, and we look forward to submitting a program which basically focuses strictly on seniors activities inside our building and in and around. So we're looking forward to that, and we already feel confident with our application going in, and hopefully we prove successful on that one as well. I think that's it, if there's no questions.
All right, thank you, Steve. So last but not least for our senior manager reports is Fire Chief Grimwood.
Good morning, or good afternoon. Can everyone hear me okay?
Yes.
Perfect. September's been a really busy month for us. In fact, we've run more calls in September than any month since I've arrived. No real alarming trends, just a mix of calls, I think, with people going back to school and buildings firing back up, getting ready for winter, different fire alarm calls, natural gas type of emergencies, but nothing too serious. Over the last 2 weekends, we put 24 firefighters through a firefighter survival and rescue course. It's a weekend-long course. We had 12 one weekend and 12 the next. It's probably one of the most physically intensive and challenging training courses in the province. It's run through the Ontario Fire College. All 24 were successful. This weekend, starting Friday, Saturday, Sunday, we're running a pumper operations course for 10 of our drivers. It'll get them more confident and comfortable operating pumps and moving water through various scenarios. Tonight, our firefighters are going door to door for the second night of our residential smoke and carbon monoxide alarm program, where we offer to inspect smoke and CO alarms in single-family dwellings. We had a lot of success the first night, and we're looking forward to that as well. Fire Prevention Week is the first week of October. This year, everything is shifted to a virtual presence, so it's all going to be online and social media, promoting fire safety. With the COVID numbers ramping back up, the province has increased the number of emergency management calls related to COVID from once a week to twice a week. So myself, Kent, and Liz, right now we're participating in 2 provincial calls every week, plus the calls with the hospital and the health unit to try and stay on top of the most current information. This month we did our emergency control group training for all of the members of the city's emergency control group to practice our skills managing a wide-scale disaster. And then the next day, several of us participated in the airport's emergency exercise. Sticking with emergency management, our committee completed a review of our hazard identification and risk assessment to try and identify all the main hazards within the city, and a review of our critical infrastructure. We are well on our way to achieving compliance. We had a phone conference with our field officer on September 24th to go over the compliance checklist, and we're well on track. Our new self-contained breathing apparatus were placed into service on Monday. So that's the air that the firefighters breathe to allow them to go into hazardous environments. It was purchased in May, but the training on it was very extensive. So it's now in service. All the firefighters very happy. These are much safer. Several new features more beneficial for accountability and firefighter safety. And the new pumper truck is at Hall 2 right now. Firefighters are completing training on it. It has to go back to Winnipeg for about 3 weeks in October, but we have it right now to do training while the weather is advantageous, and then it'll be back here permanently in November. Happy to answer any questions.
Any comments, questions, anyone? Councillor Bush?
Yes, thank you, Chief Grimwood, for your report. I do have a question related to burning and burning permits. And I guess my question is this. With respect to, I noticed in CKDR last week that your department attended a call, I believe it was last week, for a fire where somebody was burning, I presume in the rural area, and burning without the appropriate permit. And I know you've attended probably at least one other call like that. I'm a little bit sensitive to that given what we see on television in California, for sure, and given that we are a community that's largely treed. And I'm even more sensitive because my sister and brother-in-law lost their home in Fort McMurray due to the fire there. And when they left their home in Fort McMurray, they didn't think that their home was in danger. So they didn't even take anything. So I guess my concern is with these large potential burns close to trees, do we have anything in our city policies or with respect to holding people accountable, either from a cost perspective, cost recovery perspective, or fines perspective, or what's your view on what the appropriate way of going forward, either through public education, or what's the appropriate way to keep that under control? Because our burning permit requirements are there to protect the city, and when people choose not to follow them, they're not only putting themselves at risk, in my view, they're putting a lot of other people and the city at risk. So I'd like your comments on that, please.
Through the chair, that's a great question, and it's something that we're dealing with on a regular basis. Unfortunately, we have just over the last 2 weeks noticed a real uptick in the number of open-air fires that are not in compliance. In terms of our options, we have two options. We can lay charges under the Provincial Offences Act. That would typically result in a fine of in between $300 and $400, but it would require us to, if the person pled guilty, attend court and follow through on the prosecution. The better option that we utilize more often is to actually bill them under our user fees. Our user fee has an allowance for us to recover the cost of responding to the call where they were burning outside of the guidelines. It actually ends up being a bit more money than the fine without the added legal cost to defend it. In terms of how we apply it, we try and use discretion. Oftentimes, if we find somebody is honestly believing that they're within the guidelines or they were unfamiliar with them, we'll usually issue a warning the first time. We record which addresses we've been to, and if we end up there subsequently, we pursue the user fees. If we feel that the person was being intentionally negligent and just burning in contravention of the guidelines, then we will pursue the cost recovery right away. So it's a little bit of mixed enforcement. We try and we try and utilize discretion. We try and utilize education over enforcement, but we're also very aware that with some, we get repeat offenders who just continue to burn in the face of the guidelines. So enforcement and cost recovery it's something we've certainly done this year. It's very necessary in cases.
Councillor Bush?
Through your worship. So we actually have gone and requested cost recovery from some individuals?
That's correct.
Okay, that'd be good to know. It'd be good to publicize it a bit more too, I think, just in terms of hopefully maybe through CKDR or whatever the case may be, just to make people aware of the consequences, but also of the dangers to others. And I know with the M&R, they basically have a cut and dried process. If you're out of compliance and you're against their rules, then they automatically apply it. And they did that because they didn't want to get into the discretionary aspect, because they themselves found that depending on who the person was and who they knew, maybe they wouldn't get a fine or maybe they wouldn't be held accountable, where others would be held accountable. So I know the discretionary piece can be a little bit challenging, but my overall goal is just to protect the community and make people understand that there's consequences to their actions only because of the potential huge impact it has on not only themselves but others.
Absolutely.
Roger?
Through your worship, I would suggest that maybe staff can take this one offline and discuss it a little more.
Yeah, it would be helpful even in October if there was an opportunity to just do a quick flyby of the basic standards and rules for the municipality, if that would make sense.
Yep, we can discuss.
Sure. All right. Okay, so on to, thank you, Chief. On to the councillors. Councillor Marty McKinnon.
Thank you, Your Worship. So back in the day when my kids used to roll home from school, I used to say to them, what did you learn today? And after a few days we had to restructure that as, what of value did you learn today? Because some of the stuff they would tell me I didn't really want to know. So along comes the pandemic, and I asked myself, this is going to be a tough go. So first, my wife didn't want to learn anything every day. She said, I know lots, thanks. Don't start that with me. So I made myself learn something new every day. And what I've learned is that I'm very proud of the city of Dryden and the employees that work here. Because not only are they excellent at what they do, they're some of the most adaptable people that you can find. The pandemic, as I looked at it, I said to myself, "Oh boy, this is going to be a tough go," and it has been. But our staff has been really adaptable, and you see it everywhere. You see it how the arena is being run. You see all these public works projects that are on the go. That how they've got all that work done this summer, I don't know, and how they've kept up with all that, I don't know that either. That's just good management. And so my biggest learning of the pandemic is that we have superior people running our city, and I thank you for that.
All right, thank you. Well said. Councillor Shane McKinnon.
I'm just having a technical difficulty here if you want to come back to me. Thank you.
Okay. Councillor Price.
Yes, good afternoon. Just listening to and just writing down all of the work that has been done in the last couple of months, and there is absolutely no reason to ever believe that this city has been extremely busy this year, and especially in improving and moving our community forward. As our CEO has said, with the dashboard, with the completion of Van Horn, as with Aaron Park being extremely busy, which was a very unknown thing at the time if we were even going to be able to open, but prepping for it nonetheless. Like Councillor Martin and I'm very, very proud to say that we are progressive, and it certainly shows. With me, I do the same thing. I guess I'm not the only one who's been very, very busy, but attending meetings and the NWO meeting, these meetings, also with the Chamber of Commerce. So this is at Council Wharves. The nominees have been out, and voting is available until October the 7th, I believe. So yeah, it's I just want to reiterate, like as with Councilor McKinnon has said, very, very proud to be part of this community. Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle. Councillor Price. Councillor McKay.
Yeah, I guess we're all in agreement that it's a pleasure to be on council right now under the circumstances and having a very positive council meeting today. So great work, Roger and staff. Thanks.
Thank you. And Councillor Carlucci.
Thanks, Mary Wilson. I also participated in the MEG or EMG exercise, and we have the staff's well prepared. They will have us looked after if something does happen. And as a councillor, I will stay out of your hair if I have to. So just make me know if I don't. Secondly, we had a police board meeting on the 22nd. I forwarded councillors the minutes, the unapproved minutes, and in future you will be getting the agenda and unapproved minutes to follow after each meeting. So that's something I'll be working on. Lastly, kudos to the staff and for Rotary on the hazardous waste days. Well done. The community looks forward to having that in Dryden. So it's a huge plus for us and for the citizens. So thank you for that. And lastly, it's our Children Matter today, and proud to be wearing the orange shirt. So thank you.
All right, thank you. Councillor Shane McKinnon, you're back.
Thank you, Your Worship. I have 3 items, and first of all, just to echo the sentiments about the staff and COVID, and I had written this last Monday, and it was in regard to the fact that we had set a record for COVID cases in Ontario, and on Monday I had written down 700, and today I can write down 1,000. So we have to be vigilant. We have to use all the precautions that we've been taught to use, and that obviously the staff and council use all the time, and we can be very proud of that. We have one active case in our area, but that does not mean that there are not more out there. So everyone should be vigilant. Secondly, along with a number of you and Councilor Carlucci, I'm wearing my orange shirt today, and I'm happy to report that the working circle group got together this afternoon with all their orange shirts on. But also, I just want to recognize that it's a day marked really to recognize and remember and respect all those who attended residential schools across Canada, those who survived, those who did not make it home, and those affected by intergenerational trauma and are working to heal that. And may we never again forget that every child matters. And lastly, I just have to say that I'm floored by this call for a new police costume. I'd like to think that rather than acting arbitrarily, the mayor, the leader of our team, would have the courtesy to discuss his concerns about our policing, our police service, before putting another motion forward to abolish it. I would have been interested in hearing about the adequacy and effectiveness of the service, the actual costs and cost comparisons for OPP policing in our region, the residual effects of the last costing, like attrition in the ranks and any disaffection with the Dryden Police Service. I would like to know about the OPP reaction to this idea, because I've been told that the mayor and another councillor last week attended the OPP office to talk, this is speculation, to talk to the detachment commander. But if that is the case, I think council should be privy to those discussions, and that they should not be secret. Sadly, I personally believe, because of the timing of this request, that this motion is a sore thumb reaction to a recently granted police arbitration award, rather than a credible financial or liability need to change the services. You know, and let's replay this. The Dryden Police Services Board and the Dryden Police Association, the police union, enter into contract negotiations in good faith. Unable to reach an agreement, the sides turn, again in good faith, to binding arbitration, and each makes their case to an independent arbitrator assigned by the province. And the arbitration award seems to slightly favor the police union's case, but both sides shake hands, I assume virtually, and get on with their work. Now, it may be that the mayor, unhappy with this result, decides to seek retribution on the union and perhaps the Dryden Police Services Board, and is asking for another costing from the OPP. You know, as I look around our virtual meeting here, there's not a person on this call who hasn't been personally enriched in some way by the work of unionized labor in our community. This is a union town, and I know that at least 2 of our councillors have been union presidents, have negotiated for their people, and have walked a picket line. So what does that say to other labor organizations under our municipal umbrella? Go on strike and we'll contract out your job, cause any problems, we'll put you all through the ringer, turn the public against you, divide the community in your name, make you out to be inefficient or money wasters, and too much of a liability for the community. And you know, if you think this is too far-fetched, there's dedicated Dryden volunteer firefighters who are hired to protect us, outfitted in the best equipment, trained beyond the standards of the day, who are sitting at home abandoned. You know, the numbers quoted in the mayor's letter are dubious at best and fly in the face of the numbers we received not just 14 months ago. If DPS had in fact cost 73% more than the OPP, the vote may well have been 7-0 in favor of switching instead of 6-1 against. But it was in fact cheaper to keep our own police service. So I see some substantial education ahead for council to explain this obvious difference. And this council and previous councils have worked hard to try and get us out from under some of the financial anchors that weigh us down. And we know that we will be having to borrow money to fix our streets, buildings, and fix our buildings and to move the community forward with the times. But unfortunately, it seems that we don't undertake any project in the city without a provincial or federal grant, and we don't have enough capital. But now we are apparently in a position to spend upwards of $5 million in transition costs to switch police services. I dare say that each resident of this community can identify many areas of improvement where the city could apply this amount rather than switch police services. And this brings me to public consultation. A very limited response to this issue was on CKDR Facebook page. I know CKDR Facebook page or information has been quoted a number of times during this meeting. But it seems to reflect the disappointment the public has with this motion and with the mayor. Many folks think that council will try and circumvent any public discussion or costing process and just impose their will. I really want to assure them, or let's assure them, that this is not the case, that their voices matter, and that the process, if indeed it goes forward, follows the rules. Again, a meeting on this issue would probably have resolved most of these comments or questions that I have, but that didn't happen. We're just forging ahead and asking for another costing. It's unbelievable to me, but I will have much more to say about this in the coming weeks. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor McKinnon. I think you're just a little bit ahead of the process there, but that's all right. Councillor Bush, did you have comments?
I do have several comments. I didn't realize we were going to get into a discussion this evening about police costing. I thought we were simply filing a motion and saving that discussion and debate for October, late in October. However, I'm compelled to say a few things regarding Councillor McKinnon's comments, but I'm going to save those to the end. First, I do want to recognize, because this is much more important from my perspective, Orange Shirt Day today. I think Councillor Carlucci and Councillor McKinnon hit it off right. This day is set aside to recognize and acknowledge the experience of First Nations, Métis, and Inuit children in residential schools. And I was very proud to be a part of the working circle today when we met on the steps of City Hall and had our picture taken, and just to show that this is one small step that the city is making through the working circle in our process of reconciliation here in Dryden. As I say, it's a small step, but it's an important symbolic step. And as has been noted earlier, the working circle will be meeting again next week on October the 7th for our second meeting, and I'm very much looking forward to that. I think the group is very enthusiastic, and we'll come out of that meeting with some pretty good action items going forward. Stephen touched on the 2021 budget process. 2021 is a big year. Council will have some big decisions to make, so the earlier we get involved in that, the better, but I'm looking forward to seeing what we can do in 2021. A few other people have touched on it, and I don't mind being a broken record on two accounts here. First of all, I do also want to acknowledge the good work that's been done by our city staff. Public Works is out front and center with all of the visible work that they do with respect to Van Horn, obviously, now the overpass, all the other good work that's been gone on around the city to keep the city looking very good in a particularly difficult year. And it's also great to see the other departments and the work that they've done. And Steve Boulanger, you had a very good report today with respect to all of the work that you and your departments are doing with respect to getting the arena reopened, the fitness center, the pool, etc. And I, as well as others, I'm sure, have a lot of excellent feedback with respect to what's gone on there as well. Hazardous Waste Day, you know, that's just another excellent example of what this community can do and what this city can do to really take care of some particularly hazardous waste and really protect the environment. And I can tell you, being part of the Rotary team that was offloading vehicles, couldn't believe some pickup trucks that came absolutely loaded chock-a-block full front to back with paint that was used and unused, new cans, but people really did take advantage of cleaning out their basements, and I would also suggest generating some new waste. And again, as others have done, a big shout out to the Rotary Club for stepping up and helping out in this undertaking. I'll just make a couple of comments with respect to Councillor McKinnon's comments. First of all, I saw nothing in the mayor's motion that talked about abolishing the Dryden Police Services. I think that's an extremely unfair comment. I think what I've seen from the mayor in the last 6 years or so is that he doesn't do anything that's capricious. He doesn't do anything that's not in the best interest of this community. And I believe that his motion, however it turns out, whether it goes forward or doesn't go forward, is only put together with the best intentions of the community at heart. And I don't see anything with respect to being anti-labor. The last I checked, the OPP also has an association which is essentially a labor union. So what this has got to do with labor relations, I have no idea. I think his notice of motion was pretty clear. I think with respect to any conclusions, they would be premature. If they weren't premature, then why would the motion suggest the costing study? A costing study upgrade, should that go forward, would do nothing but verify or validate the concerns, or would shed a different light and say that what we've got for service, in fact, is cost effective. So it looks pretty objective from my perspective, and I, for one, would stand behind the mayor, certainly in terms of his intentions, being honorable and only looking forward to what's best for the citizens of Dryden. So I think that those comments were absolutely unfair and unfounded, and this discussion should rightly take place on October the 26th, once people have had a chance to reflect on this. And I'm not going to say anything further one way or the other about the process, but people should just keep an open mind and understand that the intentions, I believe, that the mayors are just simply for what's best for the citizens in the community of Dryden. They are not self-serving. That's my personal view. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Just a couple of things from myself. So I think, thinking about COVID, you know, I think the government recognizes that pretty well everyone will get exposure to COVID-19 at some point, which, as I quote Bill Gates again, you know, as he said, it's good for building herd immunity, except it's bad for the elderly, the frail, and those with weak immune systems. Those are the vulnerable people in our society. And so these are the areas that we need to put our money into. And I'm really glad to see the announcement today. When you think about it's probably in the trillions now of dollars that that governments around the world are investing and spending on fighting COVID, that I was so pleased to see the announcement this week by the province that they're putting $500 million to protect the vulnerable seniors against the second wave of COVID-19. Because when you think about it, based on, maybe it's changed a few percentage points, I'm not sure, but based on last month, when you recognize that 82% of the people who have died from COVID-19 are those in long-term care homes, that's an obvious area where government should be investing their money to protect their citizens. So I'm really glad to see that announcement, and I hope, I hate to see $500 million of taxpayer money to go somewhere where it wasn't expected, but I think that's a good investment, so I'm really glad to see that. And the second thing is, just kind of a good news thing to end on, is I received an email from a citizen this week, and I just want to read it to you. And they name names, so at the city, so you may want to listen up. They just said, "Hi, I would like to, Mr. Mayor, I would like to ask that you share my comments with council and the staff at Public Works for the commendable work done on replacing the culvert, repairing the driveway entrance, and placing stone to control the runoff into the natural creek on our property. We're very pleased with Daryl Pollard and staff for the great job they did in a timely fashion, communicating with us as property owners and following up on completion of their work. This is what makes our city a great place to live. Thanks, Darlene and Mike Furlong." And just hearing different people's accolades of the city that we live in and are proud to live in, I thought that was a great way to end the meeting. So thank you for Darlene and Mike for sending that in. We need someone to move and second confirmatory bylaw.
Moved by Councillor Price, seconded by Councillor Martin McKinnon, that bylaw 4775-2020, being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of council, be read a first, second, and third time.
All in favor? Carried. Thank you. And the acting clerk will ask someone for a move and second for adjournment.
Moving in second for adjournment, please. Councillor Carlucci, Councillor Shane. Thank you.
All in
Moved by
favor?
Councillor Carlucci, seconded by Councillor Shane McKinnon, that this meeting do hereby adjourn.
You can tell I'm anxious. All in favor? Carried.